Welcome to the Know, I'm Ashley Jenkins. Very little is known about Insomniac's Spider-Man PS4 game, but an unlikely source may have just leaked some of our first details. IMDB. Turnabout's fair play, I guess. A now deleted IMDB page listing for the game claimed the new game will feature not only the Green Goblin as the primary villain, but also a more experienced Spider-Man, complete with a wife and daughter. If true, this seems to point to the game taking some cues from the Renew Your Vows series, which also toyed with the idea of Spider-Man's family along with his daughter Annie Parker. As always, we should probably take these potential leaks with a grain of salt, but Insomniac has indicated through its Twitter account that Spider-Man PS4 will not be an origin story, but will focus on an experienced Spider-Man. So far, that all ties together. It's also an original story that they're creating with the help of Marvel, so it's totally separate from the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Homecoming as well. It'll be interesting to see the ultimate direction, but whatever you do, please no dad bod Spidey. I mean, we love dad bod, but those suits can't take it. Nintendo's big jump into mobile gaming, Super Mario Run, is still doing just fine, or tanking terribly, depending on who you ask. Thanks to data from Newzoo and the Wall Street Journal, we have some new insights into the game's early numbers. In just a few short weeks, the Endless Runner has sprinted to 90 million total downloads from the Apple Store, which is a lot if you're counting, and generated $30 million in revenue. Now, that might sound like a lot of revenue, because it is a lot of dollars, but at $10 a pop, that means that only 3 million people purchased the game out of the 90 million downloads, which is like a 3% conversion rate. And while that number may sound low, it is still higher than games like Candy Crush, where only 2% of customers pay. But thanks to Nintendo's chosen business model for Super Mario Run, that 3% can only give money up front, which means that the game has already fallen from the top spot in paid apps down to number 7, behind Pokemon Go, Candy Crush, and Clash of Clans. So as always, the numbers are even more confusing than ever. We'll just see if Nintendo's long game actually pays off here. We saw how Pokemon Go helped fuel Sun and Moon to be one of the franchise's biggest successes, and really, that is Nintendo's priority. The same could easily happen with Mario. If the lack of a Mass Effect Andromeda release date was toying with your emotions, and come on, it probably was at least a little bit, right? Well, you can now rest a little bit more easily because BioWare has officially announced the game for March 21st. The announcement was made in a blog post by BioWare General Manager Aaron Flynn, who gave a promising update about the game's progress. According to Flynn, the studio just passed a major milestone where a number of employees took home a current build of the game for the holiday break. Apparently, the feedback was positive enough that BioWare finally felt confident in pulling the trigger and giving the game its March date. So now, in just a few short months, you can get ready to dive back into the Mass Effect universe, and we should have some gameplay very, very soon, like tonight. We rolled over into a new year, so you know what that means. Expiring video game licenses. Of course, what else would it mean? New stuff? No. A number of licensed games have already hit the chopping block this week, including a number of rather high-profile titles from Activision. The Fast and Furious, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and even the relatively new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan have all been removed from digital marketplaces like Steam, Xbox Live, and PSN. Expiring licenses are really nothing new to the video game world, especially for Activision. If you recall, they ran into the exact same situation with Deadpool and X-Men a couple years back, but it is a little bit surprising to see Mutants in Manhattan gone after just 8 short months. Although, when you consider how poorly it was reviewed, maybe it's for the best for both Platinum Games and Activision. Still, that means that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back on the market for a new publisher, a new licensee, and we've got a pretty long wish list of who we'd like to see tackle the Turtles next. Will Terry Crews be voicing a new Overwatch character? I mean, that sounds pretty amazing, right? The actor and all-around badass alluded to that possibility when he posted a picture of himself in front of the Overwatch sign during a recent visit to Blizzard. "Who wants to hear me do the voices of DOOMFIST for real?" Crews wrote in the Facebook post. As Overwatch fans know, DOOMFIST was originally intended to be a smaller side character in the game, but fan interest has given rise to rumors that he might eventually be playable in the game. And with Crews himself visiting Blizzard and mentioning DOOMFIST, that rumor, it's only gonna get louder. I mean, hey, I'm all for it, especially if it turns out that DOOMFIST uses Old Spice on his Doom pits. Sorry. Okay, we've heard of patches and updates introducing game-breaking bugs, but Forza Horizon 3's recent snafu has taken the disaster update cake. The 0.37.2 update, which sounds weird, but stay with me here, not only prompted PC players to re-download the entire 53GB game, it also corrupted their save files, which extra sucks, and upon further inspection, turned out that the reason players were prompted to re-download the entire game is that Turn 10 had accidentally pushed the unencrypted developers build instead of a consumer build. This, of course, turned the land down under into a leaker's paradise. Players soon discovered a treasure trove of unreleased cars and DLC, including Porsches, which were until very recently only allowed in EA games thanks to a 10-year licensing deal. How the developer build of the game slipped through to players is anyone's guess, but the right version of the game has now been placed on Windows, so it's all fixed. According to Turn 10, any save file you started in the 0.37.2 update will be corrupted, so hopefully you've got another one handy, and real sorry about that original one, am I right? Oops. Moving on. Woody Harrelson could be Han Solo's mentor in the next standalone Star Wars movie, potentially. The actor is reportedly in early talks to play the role, according to Variety. Not much is really known beyond that, but Donald Glover has already been cast as a young Lando Calrissian, and Emilia Clarke will apparently be Solo's love interest. I mean, she's all of our love interests, really, but also his. While we don't yet know exact details about Han Solo's movie mentor in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, RIP, Solo was raised by a former bounty hunter, Garrus Shrike, who used orphans to pull off cons and thefts. Real stand-up dude. Prior to Harrelson, Christian Bale was also in the mix for the role, according to a writer for The Hollywood Reporter. Regardless of who plays the part, the movie is due out in 2018, and if it's not the exact same character as the expanded universe, no one will be happy. So, pretty typical Star Wars. The studio behind Adventure Time could be adapting Castlevania into a cartoon for American television, which sounds pretty awesome. Come on, let's just take that in for a second. In a recent Nick Animation podcast, studio owner Fred Siebert discusses working on an unnamed project that is, quote, based on one of the most world-famous video games of the last 30 years. That would jive with a Facebook post made last year by Eddy Shankar, who produced the Grey movie. Shankar wrote that he's producing a super violent Castlevania series. Of course he is. Does he do anything that's not like a gritty take on stuff? With Siebert, that will be dark, satirical, and after a decade of propaganda, it will flip the vampire subgenre on its head. I mean, hopefully that means like no Dracula romance with Kristen Stewart. If we can just skip that, I'll take it. Okay, so this next story is either a terrible mix-up or Splatoon has some really messed up DLC. A mom in Ohio tried to buy her 7-year-old daughter a copy of Splatoon for Christmas, which is really sweet, right? But when the girl opened the box, she found a porn DVD instead, and that's how she learned about the birds and the bees. The woman said she bought the game at Target a week before Christmas and that it was shrink-wrapped and locked in a case, but instead of a copy of Splatoon, her daughter unwrapped a DVD copy of Sensual Seductions 2. The woman tried to tell her daughter that there must have been a mix-up that Santa didn't know about, and the saddest part of the story is that somewhere there's a really frustrated Nintendo employee who mixed up his DVDs and is now trying to masturbate to a copy of Splatoon, which, you know, honestly, great porn title. So there you go. That will end on that note for the day. What is your favorite video game porn title? Leave those in the comments. Come on, we can make this a whole new genre. Like, you know, I mean, beyond like Rule 34 or whatever. And if you want to, well, first of all, be careful reading the comments, just on account of that. Want to get warned. And for more news from every corner of the internet, every single day, on the weekdays mostly, like this video and subscribe to the Know. You can rest a little bit more easily now because BioWare has officially announced the game for March 21st. Yeah, I'll go back a little bit. The 0.37.2 update not only is it, what is that? The 0.37? Is it? 0.37.